Subcommittee on Transportation to order. I'd ask this time, Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Higdon.
Here.
Representative Branscombe.
Here.
Representative Bridges. Representative Huff. Representative Imes.
Present.
Representative Smith.
Here.
Representative Tackett Lafferty.
Present.
Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Representative Blanton.
Present.
Representative Bowling. Representative Bray. Representative Petrie. Senator Douglas.
Present.
Representative Upchurch presiding.
Present. Do we,
We need one more.
did Bridges?
Oh, Bridges.
Bridges?
Yes. That makes
So we do
four.
have a quorum?
Yes.
Okay. We do have a quorum. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to approve the October 15th minutes.
Motion. Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, motion carries. The minutes are approved. Before we get started today, we all are aware of the tragic accident, plane crash yesterday at the UPS Worldport. We don't know all the details at this point, but we do know there's several lives lost. And at this time, I'd ask the committee we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. All right. First up on the agenda is the Local Road Assistance Program. Bobby Joe Lewis, Commissioner. I ask you to come forward and please introduce yourself for the record, and then you may proceed.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Bobby Joe Lewis, the Commissioner of Rural and Municipal Aid with the Transportation Cabinet. It's my pleasure to be here this morning to talk to you about the local local assistance road program and the funding cycle that just completed on October 1st. I would also like to take this opportunity to introduce to you all, in case you don't know them, my colleagues in the back. Christy Ross, would you stand up, please? And Mamadou Diallo. They both participated heavily in the processing of all these projects that came in. So I'm proud to have them here, and you all should be likewise. Thank you. All right, let's get started. All right.
Bob Joe, before we do
Yes.
that, we have a very special guest with us today.
Okay.
Representative Angie Tackett Lafferty, would you like to introduce your special guest?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Today I have with me my youngest of three. His name is Owen Walker, and he is here doing his third grade math homework.
Let's please make him welcome.
Thank you.
And I was talking to him earlier, and we should wish him good luck in his basketball game tonight.
Well, good luck, buddy.
All right. So the Local Assistance Road Program, also known as LARP, and the County Priority Projects Program, I leave that on there because we still have roads that are being completed out of the prior year's funding in HCR 92, okay? So, but this is an overview of what happened in the application cycle that opened June 1st and closed on October 1st. The modified requirements and guidelines for the CPP or LARP program that were set out in House Bill 546 of the 2025 legislative session have been codified in KRS 176.24 or 243. And that was that they limited the rehabilitation projects, bringing the road or street back to its original condition, allowed the maximum of $500,000 per project in funding, required 1 photograph for every 300 feet of the project, required development and use of a new scoring matrix, and required a local match by the locals. These requirements and guidelines were implemented and applied in this cycle, and successfully, I might add. All right, so the 26-27 application cycle began, as I said, on June 1st and ended on October 1st and resulted in the following. The total projects submitted were 1,215. The total project costs submitted, $121,121,754.38. The total amount requested after the local match was applied is $102,256,326.55. There were 107 counties that applied. You'll see the note on there that says 116 counties are represented. That's because some cities within the county applied, but the county did not. So 107 counties and 106 cities applied for assistance through this program. The average project cost submitted was $99,688.69. The average amount requested after match, $84,161.59. And then the total funding for roads that were ranked 8s, 9s, or 10s was $81.598 million and some change. The project rankings are listed there for you. There were 36.219 and some change in 10s and 25.9 million in 9s. I won't read the rest of them, but you can see the percentages out to the side. So 30% of the submissions were 10s and 22% were 9s. All right. As reminders, the list of all project requests has been submitted to the General Assembly through the Legislative Research Commission and contains the information that was required and codified in KRS 176-243-3. The photographs that were required have been located in a share folder and access shared with the Legislative Research Commission at LRC ARR reports at kylegislature.gov. And that was to meet the requirements contained also in 176-243-3. Next steps, following the General Assembly's funding decisions in the upcoming session, we will create the MOAs and send them to the locals at the beginning of FY27 when the funds are available. I presented this in August. It is the actual funding breakdown, and it's as of August 1st. I did not update this on this slide. I have an update that I can give you verbally, but I wanted you to see how it's tracked so far. I didn't have the approved number at the time. That's why it's not updated. But this program started at House Bill 265 with $20 million. Authorized in HJR 92, this was in FY25, 17.290 million. And the funds were 20 million, but authorized 19.991 million, less 2,701,000, which the roads were already completed. That was the initiating year of the program. So there were underruns following final payments on the roads that are finalized. Not all of them are finalized, but you can see that in the CPP annual report that we filed for November 1st. All right, so there was $280,441.06, which was available for carry forward funds. Then HJR 46, this last legislative session, the funds set out were $21,147,000. The projects authorized in HJR 46 was $23,857,000. So you take the 21,147 plus the 2,701,000 that was already completed. That was 23.848 million. So the 23,857 was 9,000 over authorized. Okay, so that leaves us the 280,441 minus 9,000, 271,441 left for reauthorization in FY 2027. All right, now, since this date, and you can also confirm this in the report that's just been filed, there's a total of $355,432.42, which is available for reauthorization. And that was as of October 13th. So as you all get closer to deciding how you're going to distribute the funds this time, we can keep you updated on the payments that have come in and if there's any further underruns. Okay? Any questions about that?
We do have some questions. I know a couple have asked.
Sure.
But on the, have you seen a progression like last year where we had a 9, now it's become a 10? Have you seen much of that where they turned in a road last year and it was rated an 8 or a 9, and then this year it became a 9 or a 10? Have
Yes,
you seen? So that's kind of what the natural progression.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it basically, if it comes in a 7, it's going to take a couple of 3 years before that becomes a 10, unless something.
I'd say that you're looking at just from the experience that I've had over the last 6 years, you're looking at that, natural occurrences along with extreme occurrences. If we have a really bad winter, a 7 might become a 10,
Yeah.
depending on its location and whatnot. So I don't know that we can actually pinpoint that because there are other environmental factors that would weigh into that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
But I have seen a progression, and we've tried to keep an eye on that, as to, the scores that have, if the road's been a flex road, it's been evaluated there, or if the road was applied for last year and, moved into this year. Because I had a lot of locals ask me, what road should I apply for? And I said, well, if you applied for roads last year that were pretty bad, then you probably should submit those because they didn't get any better unless you did work to them. So
Last year, I think the 8s, 9s, and 10s were right around 140 million. Is that ballpark?
You're asking me to remember a year ago. But I think you're about right.
I think it was somewhere around 140 million. And if I remember correctly, the 10s alone were right at 50.
Yes, 51 million. I remember there were 51 million in 10s. I do remember that. And we had about 1,600 applications, or applications for projects last year. So there was about 400 more. So we could speculate all day as to the cause of that, why there was a decrease. But we did our best to make sure that the roads that are on your list this year were in compliance with House Bill 546 and restoring the original condition of the road. Yeah. Because there were times when I had to look into that. Yeah. And actually send emails back and say, we can't do this road for this reason.
And how are the local officials, are they understanding the program more now, do you find?
I believe so. I think and I've got a slide in here for some suggestions on how we might improve the program, which is coming up next, I believe. But I had a lot of questions about the photographs.
Yeah.
And they kind of tended to think that once that requirement was made for this program, that they needed to do it for all of the programs. So we were being inundated with photographs.
And do you think where we roughly had $50 million last year and we spent right at a little over 20 million, and now we've got showing 36 million just on the 10s.
Correct.
Are they using some of their flex to fill the gap?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, everyone's using their flex, and we encourage them to do that. But flex roads have a different criteria for approval. You can do roads on flex, and the general ranking for flex roads is anywhere 5 and up.
Yeah.
So,
I think what I'm trying to get at is where the counties are using some of their flex money to, like if it came in the road they wanted to do and it scored like 8 or a 9, they've done it with some flex instead of turning it in
Sure.
on this. So that could be some of the decrease from the 50 million
Of
to
course,
the 36
yes.
million, and then the 20 we put in is kind of, and it shows that it's, I think it's helping. Obviously, we need more,
right.
but that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. Representative Blanton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioner. Probably your next slide is going to address what I'm about to bring up.
Let me flip it over and
But
see. Okay.
after conversations, I really think that we need to go back and look at our language, because the inundation that the Transportation Cabinet is getting with all these photos at every 300 feet, that, you know, I don't see why we couldn't take a drone footage rather than pictures every 300 feet, and it's making it hard to transmit some of this because the file is so large with all these photographs. Can we adjust that language to allow them, as long as they're showing some type of photographic evidence, whether it be through video or through still photos, rather than just saying every 300 feet you got to have a photograph? Because my understanding, these files are getting so large, it's making it very difficult to transmit them. So we really need to look at how we make that easier for them to transmit, and they're having to look at all these things. So just a suggestion of something that's I've heard of that's an issue with that particular piece of our language. Commissioner, could you am I right?
Yes, sir, Chairman Blanton. The majority of the complaints that we got were people were unsure how to, they asked me, how do I take these pictures? Okay, so I told them, start at the first of the road, take a picture looking out, go down 300 feet and take another one. And they're like, well, can I send you drone footage? And I'm like, well, the law says, and I'd read them the law. And they're like, okay, well, I'm going to send you the photographs, but I'm still going to send you my drone footage. I'm like, that's perfectly fine. I'll be happy to look at it.
And I think that's something we can, and I think we've all heard some of that. And
right.
we wanted to try to get a baseline to begin with, and then I think that's something that we will.
I was interested in whether or not the transmittal of the photographs, like Christy worked with our local GIS folks, who I should take a moment to brag heavily on. I always brag on my colleagues at KYTC, and they have been phenomenal. And the GIS folks helped Christy set up a share folder, and once we got people used to using that, it was pretty good, except a lot of them weren't saved in the right format. So we would have to go back and re-go through all the photographs and save them to a different format before we could upload them to the share folder, which was very time consuming. So I think video or drone footage, as long as the size is not enormous, would be much easier to handle than 50 photographs. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Again, I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention that this was becoming an issue, and we need to look at how we provide options to make it, one, to simplify the process, two, to cut back on the overload of the amount of data that is taken to transmit some of this stuff. So, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, after looking at the list, I've gone from 0 to 16, so I do appreciate the whatever's taken place. Maybe it was a way that bringing the pitchers in. I know our roads didn't change that much in 12 months, but is it the cabinet's position that we concentrate on a section like these 10s for local government? Because I know it has to be tough on your side when now you're getting all this information gathered up because of the way we've changed things. It's been a harder situation for me because I actually was able to get roads under the old program. Then when I went to zero, it was tough, and then I voted to do that. So I'm not saying politics in a whole, but I'm saying I guess, is this the best form that you can see in the transportation side now of identifying? Do you feel comfortable that you're getting all the information you need now from all areas, and that everything's, I don't want to say legit because I'm not saying it wasn't before, but you feel this is a better way of identifying the county's needs, that, you know, when the money is sent out, if we took care of all the 10s across the state, then we've affected a lot of counties like my own district. But do you feel like this process now do you have more information now than you had before? I guess I'm trying to figure out, have we made a good move by doing it this way?
The answer to that question, I think, is very multifaceted. There are parts of this program that are good. However, if you look at, right now, we've got 1,215 projects, and I need to make a note here because there's something else I wanted to mention to you. But right now, we had 1,215 projects that were applied for. And they've started applying in June of last year. And these 10s that have been evaluated in the last 3 months, they are 10s now. And they're not going to get the funding for another, how many months? 8, 9? So those 10s are just sitting there. Whereas before, if there was a 10, I could go fix it. I mean, I had the ability and the authority, to talk to the secretary and get that road done. And I can't do that now.
Okay.
And that's very difficult.
So you're saying it straps you in one way, but the information, you've actually gathered more information than you had in the past. And being because you have an aggression by the judges and the magistrates. It's been laid on them to turn, you do this and you turn it in, and then these roads will be put into the system. So they know that now, at least my area does. Because you was talking about pictures. When they first started talking about that, I said, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, we're having to take pictures. And I said, okay. And I guess I told them that's probably to show, show the proof in the pudding that you've got these roads in this condition. So I understood that. I'm just trying to figure out, if we funded all the 10s and we came in and done it, you're saying even though it's going to take 7 more months to get that cycle in, if we were going to do all the 10s, but would that make a larger difference across the state than the way it was before? I guess, and I may be confusing you on the question. I'm just trying to make sure we're moving in the right direction to take care of our local governments, and that this process, because change isn't always good in my eyes, but if it is good and it is going to be better as we go forward, that we're going to identify, make sure the dollars are going into the best areas, the best way we can, then I'm all for it. So I was just trying to get a feel from you that as going forward, is this the best process you see that we're going?
Well, like I said, one of the bigger handicaps for this is the time that it takes from need to accomplishment. The second thing that I would point out is when before, I still maintain that our folks are pretty much doing the same thing they did before. We knew because the evaluators, when the project came in, we sent it to the CDE. The CDE had the evaluator go out, and we had the same process. Now, the scoring matrix has been updated pursuant to the criteria that you all set out in House Bill 546. But they still went out and laid eyes on the road. You know, we didn't have them send in 300-foot photographs, but the evaluator went out and laid eyes on the road when they evaluated
I
it.
guess my point is, it just seems like at least you have the information now that's
Sure.
come from the local government, which I think is good.
Yes.
I think that part of it has been
And
an
I would agree with you
been
there,
an
sir.
asset. So that was my point. Now that you're gathering all this, it helps us because we can see now what the need is.
Sure.
So I think that's been the positive from it. So, but anyway, I appreciate what you've done on it. Thank you.
Right, and I might also add, with the scoring matrix, House Bill 546 required us to use, certain criteria to add to the scoring matrix. And our folks at KYTC, again, I'm bragging on them, okay? They took the information that was set out in House Bill 546, a combination of our folks from the districts, from the Division of Pavements, and from the State Highway Engineer's office, the Secretary's office, and my office, and devised a scoring system. And I can show you a picture of it. It'll make you go, this is the scoring matrix. It looks like a bunch of, who knows what, but it makes sense, okay? And then our GIS folks put it in the computer so we can put this information in the computer. They set it up for us, and it tells us what the score is.
Bob,
It's-
Joe, just to follow up,
Yes,
under the prior system,
yes, sir.
how many counties and how many projects roughly on average were you given each year? Is it more now than it was?
Well, it's more now because it's so concentrated.
Yeah.
Before it was spread out over the year. People could apply. It was open application, and you could apply at any time during the year. And we may get 20 a week or something. It just depends. I don't know what that figure is. I mean, I can go back historically and find that if you'd like for me to.
And then now
But-
we're spending double the amount of money than what
Yes,
Yeah.
because it was spread out before, and that's something else to consider when we have this. I want to tell you this: we had 63% of the 1,215 projects applied for in the last few days of the application cycle. 417 of them came in October 1st. 417. So that's why I gave kudos to the staff in rural municipal aid earlier, is because it was all hands on deck.
we had to hustle.
Because we had to make sure that they complied. We had to make sure we had all the information. It had to be put in the computer. It had to be sent to the district, then evaluated and got back to us. So you can see we just barely got it here by November 1st. But we did it, and kudos to everyone who had a part in that. I'm very proud of the work they did, and that I participated in as well.
All right. I think we've got a little pressed for time. I've got two more questions, Representative
Okay.
Branscombe.
Yeah, I'll try to make it quick, and you kind of answered a little bit of what I was going to ask. But when I'm looking at this and kind of looking at how the roads are scored, I sit there and think about like continuity. So the evaluators, are those the district engineers that are going out and evaluating, or who are those folks?
Typically, Representative, it would be the staff that's been appointed by the chief district engineer. Now, I can also tell you, I brought a copy just to show everyone. This is the County City Pavement Management Field Handbook that was created by our Division of Pavements. And it contains all this information I just showed you, the scoring criteria and how to score. So the CDE, the Chief District Engineer, is going to appoint people in their district. And those are the folks who they refer these projects to when they come in. Make sense?
Yeah. So I'm sitting here looking at it. I think it's a Kentucky County Judge Executives, I guess a presentation you all did there, and I'm just sitting here looking at the slideshows. But I guess my one concern, but would be, all right, what looks like good, fair, or poor? What might be fair to you would be poor to me. If we're looking at the same road, maybe in a different district or a different area. So I guess my question is, how do you all ensure that there's some continuity there in the scoring system? Because if I'm in charge of District 8 and the chairman's in charge of 7 for scoring, and we're evaluators, well, that might look like fair to me, but it may look like poor to him. And be the same road condition. And I guess it's kind of a judgment call. And I see pictures that you all have as examples of what would be poor and what would be, fair as far as raveling and rutting and things like that. But just the continuity and how that scoring is done, since it's multiple people doing it. I'm not saying I got a better way of doing it. I'm just sitting here thinking about how you evaluate that.
I know that has been a concern, because that's what was told to me before the switch occurred. Many of you know this, but there was an engineer that needed a special project, and when I first became commissioner, I had that same question you had, Representative. I'm like, well, how do we know that District 1 and District 12 are scored the same way? So I gave him roads and didn't tell him what the score was, and had him go look at them, and to see if there was continuity between District 1, District 12, District 2, and District 9. And his conclusion was, and he made me a book, and that's what I used until the program switched. I used that book to show what, there were pictures attached to it and what those roads were. So I felt confident in what we were doing. So now I understand that there were some concerns, and that's why the scoring matrix has been developed. And inside this booklet, you'll see that they describe, and you're welcome, this is on the internet, if you all want to go look at it, but it describes what is excellent, what is good, what is fair, and what is poor, and how you should choose each one. We've also, we've talked about introducing this again during their fall training for the people who do this work. Just to emphasize the continuity, so to speak. But I will also tell you, I told you we put the information into the computer. No one sees that score. The evaluator doesn't know what the score is. They just look at the implementation of these criteria, and they answer the questions, and they hit submit. And then it runs through the computer GIS, and it sends an email out and says what the score is to the CDE and to my office.
And where did you say we could see the scores at?
We submitted the comprehensive report.
Okay. Is it online yet?
No, I don't know about that.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm not sure.
Not just
Thank you, Chair.
part of the reason for the continuity is those pictures. That way we could look statewide and look at them. And now an easy way, I think, for scoring, he's talking about fair and poor. If we would just use the matrix that all the roads in District 8 were 10s and everywhere else was 5s, we'd be fine. Senator Higdon, did you have a question?
I do. Elementary one. Chairman Upchurch's plan, it's it shows us the need. We've never really seen in the past the need. We know that when we had the discretionary money, we had, and it wasn't, no rhyme or reason. That some were better at asking for money than others. I think what we see here, we're kind of talking about the tip of the iceberg. This is a problem that's part of a bigger problem. The bigger problem is with our formula FIS, the money is not, if the money was there and flowed down to the counties through the formula FIS, they wouldn't need any additional money. They would get money to take care of their needs, right? Would that be, am I correct on that?
I can say that if the formula of the FIS, if you're talking about increasing gas tax,
I didn't mention the word tax,
Yeah.
okay? you need to, it's a fee.
I'm sorry, a user fee. Okay, I'm sorry. But if that's where you're going, the more money that's put into the formula of the FIS, the more money that's going to go to the counties.
Okay.
The more the counties will have.
Okay,
to
let me.
roads.
I don't want to interrupt you, but Chairman Upchurch is going to cut me off here in a second. So, so if we're getting the same fee today as we got in 2011, would that be a sign that, hey, there's a problem?
I would say that is a good sign that the roads are not getting done like they should, because the price has increased monumentally, and the monies to do it has stayed the same. So they can't possibly get the roads done like they did before.
So
without
that's
more money.
again, back to this very elementary. We're talking about something that's really part of a bigger problem.
Yes, sir.
We wouldn't be having this conversation if we were generating the money that we needed through the formula FIS,
I would say that's a very
which comes from the fee that you
assessment.
pay at the gas pump.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to make that point,
Yes, sir.
and we need to deal with that. You have any suggestions?
What kind of fee would you advise?
Oh, I would need to get some advice from the secretary before I commit to that.
He'd probably go, shh. All right. I think that's all the questions for this round. Bob, Joe, we appreciate everything you all have done to put this together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you all have any questions or need anything, you've got my email. And I think most of you, including China, have my cell phone number. So.
All right. Next up on the agenda is multimodal funding priorities. Jennifer Kirchner, with Executive Director of the Kentuckians for Better Transportation. So you have some guests with you.
Good
If you all will
morning.
just
Let me,
introduce yourselves for the record, and then you may proceed.
all right. I've struggled with this in other meetings this week, so I came early to make sure I had the technology figured out. I appreciate your help. Good morning. As Chairman Upchurch said, I am Jennifer Kirchner. I'm the Executive Director of Kentuckians for Better Transportation. And I do want to note before we get started, as again, as Co-Chair Upchurch mentioned, our hearts and our thoughts and our prayers and our energy is with our aviation family, our team at UPS. They're a huge part of our Commonwealth. So we stand ready to help them. We're here to give them support, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in aviation. But I do want to acknowledge that our hearts are broken for what they're having to deal with. So thank you again for having me. I think KBT has a unique perspective. We can see the big picture when it comes to transportation and infrastructure. And I think that when all of the modes work together, we build a stronger Kentucky for quality of life and for economic development. As we look ahead to Budget 2026 session, I wanted to share with you that we have studied and what we support in each mode of transportation. I shared last week with the Advanced Air Mobility and Aviation Economic Development Task Force that when KBT is firing on all cylinders, we are a convener. We bring together voices from every corner of Kentucky's transportation network. Our focus is simple but powerful, connecting infrastructure across all modes, connecting people and places, connecting goods to markets, all to strengthen our economy, enhance the quality of life across the Commonwealth. Today, I'm here to connect you to experts. These experts that you'll meet today are our committee modal chairs. You may not realize, but KBT has a board of 60 members. It is large, but it's necessary to capture professionals in both the private and the public sector, as well as across each mode of transportation. As we go through the slides for the funding modal requests, I will have them join me at the table and introduce themselves. We'll walk through each mode, where we've been, where we are, and where we hope to go. And with that, I think we will go ahead and move to waterways or river ports. Briefly, as you remember, with House Bill 1, there was historic transportation infrastructure investment. So with waterways, we saw $18.5 million invested in river port preservation program, $7.5 million each fiscal year to the river ports. There was also a $3.5 million that went to Paducah to develop their triple rail site. And with that, I wanted to, if you guys will introduce yourself before you get started, and I'm going to let them talk about some of the progress that's been made.
Hi, good morning. My name is Brian Wright. I'm with the Owensboro Riverport Authority in Owensboro, Kentucky. I also represent the Kentucky Association of River Ports as the current chair.
Good morning. Ben Whiteman. I'm the Executive Director of the Henderson County Riverport Authority and on the subcommittee with Brian for waterways.
Talk about the examples. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you all, first of all, for the opportunity to come and speak today on behalf of the waterways across the state of Kentucky. I want to start by saying thank you for the opportunity in House Bill 1 of the $15 million that was specific to the Kentucky Ports, Kentucky Public River Port Construction and Maintenance Program that we've facilitated over the last year and a half. Since those dollars were implemented back in July of 2024, we have actually employed well over 85% of those dollars since that date. And that goes from not only here within the Midwest or the western part of the state, but from Greenup Boyd on the eastern part all the way down to Hickman down on the Mississippi River. Examples of those implementations of those dollars being used is grain conveyor upgrades, failing equipment from the past that's aged out that needed to be shored up or replaced. And these dollars have allowed all of our public ports across the state to not only preserve our operational capabilities, but put us in a better position to leverage for future growth opportunities and enhanced increased volumes and enhanced performance from each of the ports across the state.
I too would like to express my gratitude for the funding we've received. I believe the river ports have been diligent and cost conscious in deploying that money. These projects have provided an excellent foundation to get us back to what we would consider phase 2, the modernization. I think in looking at some of these projects, it preserved but also gave us an opportunity to expand our capacities through efficiencies that we've gained by upgrading equipment and infrastructure. The Riverport study identified about $52 million in funding needs to really modernize the river ports. The $15 million was really a preservation tool. The 51 is to modernize. We looked at that and been in discussions throughout the last year and a half, and we combined with the 15, we do believe that the next round of asking will be much less, obviously. But we do think this will help us make significant progress towards modernization. It will allow us to do some infrastructure projects that will not necessarily, we had some situations in this first round of funding that was mooring cells and real perilous infrastructure that could have really taken a riverport out of operation, to opportunities to improve port road access roads, to we have at some of our ports extensive conveyor systems that are very expensive to replace, and those are coming of age or coming to the end of their life. We are looking at new docks and work barges. We're looking at new warehousing and bulk facilities. These will allow us, these projects will be very transformative. They'll allow us to, as product moving on the river transitions or evolves, when we look at textiles, machinery, manufactured goods, we move from bulk and some of us handling individual pieces, but we're looking at growing those types of businesses, and this next round of funding will give us that opportunity to really re-engage into some of those industries that they haven't been very big in the past, but they're growing, and it's an opportunity for us to capture that for the Commonwealth. Thank you.
So with that, I would like to acknowledge, I often consider a check-in with our river ports because I think they're a real bellwether for the economy. They're foundational for our farmers and our agriculture. So I would stress that if there's something you need to know, these fellows are a wealth of information from the manufacturing sector to discussions about tariffs and infrastructure. So this year for 2026, we're asking for $30 million for river port investment. That would allow for about $3 million per river port. We're asking for those funds to be funded in the first year of the biennium, being that the projects at river ports take a long time to construct. We think that we can be the best steward of tax dollars if we know upfront amongst all of the river ports what those funding projects are. If there's money left over, it goes back into the pot, and there's another call for river ports who could accept that remaining balance. It's largely how the program has worked this year or this past biennium, and we've seen it be very successful. So the last part of the river port request would be, unlike a lot of our other modes, there actually exists in KRS a River Port Financial Assistance Trust Fund. You may know that as the KRI program, and that is actually housed within the Kentucky Transportation budget. What we're asking is that, and it's about $500,000 a year, and what we're asking is that fund gets moved to the existing trust fund. The main point being it would allow those funds to carry over and not be swept. So we think that could be established as a nest egg going forward, ultimately in hopes that we don't have to come back and ask for more money. But we think that that's a really good point and key to sustainable funding. So with that, I think we could do questions as the modes come, if that's what you want to do. So,
Representative Smith, do you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, it's good to hear a update on how the money has gone. Actually, Representative Bridges and I have set that task force up, that committee to look into ports, into rail, and into air, and really to look at how we could affect across the state and those different aspects. It's a long ways from my district. I know Paducah and the ports are, but the vision was seeing the supply and demand of transport and meeting the needs of getting the goods carried about. And Kentucky is in such great shape geographically across the United States, and that's showed by the $3 billion invested in the Ohio Bridge to get that done. That in itself helped my truckers that had a 3-hour delay that I was hearing in my district. So that's the reason I started looking into it. And another factor was the ports, is that we weren't utilizing. We had some testimony come into transportation from the shippers, and I asked one of them, what size could we build for you that could handle the shipping? And they said, as big as you can build. And that just opens up the world to us. So my challenge is, on seeking more dollars, is to show maybe where you can obtain contracts, you can obtain business, what is our dollars going to generate to bring back to us, and it's going to have to be in commerce. So if you can show those, I had the luxury of going to Jacksonville several times in my lifetime, and you go across and you see their port, and it just blows your mind, the access they have to the world. And I'd love to see Kentucky get into a fraction of that, and I know that's what you want to do. So if you can bring, now that you've had some influx, you see that there's an interest. We were looking at $500,000, a budget that was dealing with the ports before this. So now you can see that there is an interest. If you can show us that we're going to get a reward, or we're going to get for our investment, we're going to get a large return. Does that make sense? I think that would help a lot on what you're asking for, is that we've given you a pretty good start that wasn't there. And I'd like to see what your vision is and coming to us with companies saying, this is what we can land. This is what the difference is going to make to Kentucky if we get these investment dollars. I hope that makes a little bit of sense on what I'm saying, but I think that's important. On the dollars we've already invested, I think it was $30 million in the budget that was broke up different ways, but I understand what you're asking for, but I'd like to see that myself. What difference has it made in the dollars you've spent so far and dividing it up into these ports? And what is our future if we invest more? What are we going to get in return for that?
Yes, if I may just comment, we do talk a lot about the return on investment, and up to this point and here for the next year or so, one of our challenges has been most of these ports were built in the late 60s, 70 time frame, aging infrastructure, mooring cells in the river that have essentially been ignored for too many years. Each one of those is $500,000. So part of our initial push with the KPRCM is to get us back up to status quo, to put us in a better position. But to your point, there are opportunities where we can capture new businesses within our regions, depending on where you're at and what your geography is and what consumption of goods is peppered around your region will primarily dictate some of those new businesses. But there are opportunities going forward, and I think that's what Ben was alluding to on being able to build for modernization and for the future.
Yeah, I think when we look at this first round of funding, and we called it asset preservation because it truly was, we look at it more, what businesses were we able to retain rather versus what businesses would we have lost had we had a mooring cell collapse or a dock, or just the roads degrade to the point that the clients aren't interested, or our handling has become so inefficient. So this first round really, I can tell you, you saved a lot of business for the river ports. Now, this next round, as we're treated as a quasi-government, so we recognize that if we don't return every day, we don't really exist, because ultimately the county or the city that's for our host is going to say enough's enough. Maybe this isn't a thing we should do. So we always work towards any project that, what's this? What, is it worth the investment? I mean, we look at it very similarly. Our margins aren't as strenuous as the private sector, but we do have to demonstrate this is a viable investment for this river port. And all of these projects coming forth will demonstrate that for sure, for certain.
Senator Higdon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And of course, anytime somebody asks for money, I want to know where it's coming from. Is this general fund dollars or road fund dollars?
This is general fund dollars.
Okay, you're talking to the wrong group then. But I
Beg to differ, Senator Higdon. Multimodal transportation all belongs here.
No, I mean for general fund dollars, we the road fund dollars is the ones we I guess of course, you talk about maintenance on your equipment. Do you all have some sort of, you set aside money for maintenance, or do you have? I mean, is that something that's computed into your business plan?
Yes, all of the ports across the state, the most active ports, some are economic development initiatives. Each one of us have a long-term capital plan, as well as in order for you to submit for an application for these dollars, you have to prove that you have a master plan as well, that the KYTC reviews. All of the ports that are active are in the process of revamping those master plans to show the long term. But I will point out by statute, by the KRS 65510, every dollar that we earn at the public facility has to go back into infrastructure to improve. So it gets down to how much volume is going through a certain port and what's the margins on them to allow them to have the dollars. The challenge is that a lot of what we do in construction on the river now today is capital intense, whether it's the mooring cells or larger pieces of equipment. But by law, all the dollars we earn goes back into infrastructure.
So you do generate revenue and you reinvest that.
Yes.
Okay. And you do consider there is a return on investment figured into your project?
Yes. Each project is unique. If it's a tenant coming to the facility, then there's a handling as well as a potential lease opportunity for long-term leasing. And that will kind of dictate our investment as far as upgrading or enhancing a facility, depending on if it's a 15 plus 5-year contract on what that return will be for us long-term.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank
All right.
We good? Okay, we'll move on to rail. Picking you guys out. Thank you. Yeah, you're in the hot seat now.
Good morning. Good morning, afternoon. Tyler White, Vice President of Government Affairs for R.J. Corman Railroad Group, representing the Kentucky Rail Association.
So we'll get started again with a recap and how grateful we are for the historic investment in rail in House Bill 1. Much like Riverports, we saw the establishment of one program that was funded for $15 million that is referred to as the K-SLIP. Largely that was for Class 1s and Class 2 railroads, largely to preserve and enhance existing rail lines. We also have, I apologize, there's a typo right there in my bullet point 1. It's actually $15 million for the KIAZI is the acronym that we refer to it as. And that had an expanded group of applicants with the intent to facilitate road development for industries, connect communities, increase on-time performance, and really either bring or assist existing industries to Kentucky. Those eligible grant applicants included railroad authorities, rail-served industries, port authorities, industrial and economic development authority boards. So much like we did with Riverports, I'm going to turn it over to the expert and let Tyler tell you a little bit about how things are going.
So number one, thank you all for the investment made. When we came to you 2 years ago and explored these pilot programs, the rail need for Kentucky alone in the short line rail space, we estimated there was around $150 million worth of backlog in rail infrastructure improvements needed. So this was, again, as kind of was stated earlier, stop the bleeding with regards to, and really what I want to talk about to Representative Smith's question earlier is what's kind of the ROI on this. Because the 50-50 grant requirement to match these funds to 50%, we believe that these $30 million total over the 2 years leveraged well over $60 million of private and, again, federal dollars into our rail system. So we do think that the money was used very, very successfully with regards to leveraging private dollars as well. When you look at these two programs, K-SLIPs only for, and that's the short line preservation, that's only for Class 2 and Class 3 railroads to access. And then you look at KISIA, that's really your industrial groups. So really broadening the base. We were able to partner. I'm gonna talk a little bit about R.J. Corman's use of this, just because it was closer to us. We were able to partner with groups like Logan Aluminum and do track infrastructure upgrades leading up to the facility. And then Logan Aluminum was able to successfully secure funding that would help them expand their rail operations inside their property in order to, again, broaden the base economically speaking. So as we look at these programs moving forward, one thing I do want to highlight before we make this request is on the federal side, we know that the CRISI, the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvement Program on the federal side has over the next 2 years will have $2 billion that is able to be accessed by short lines across the nation. We believe that these programs, especially ones like K-SLIP, will help us leverage those opportunities. Going past 26 into 2027, we believe that President Trump, just by signaled as his budget request over this past year, looks to favor programs like Chrissy. So we do see, if I've got the crystal ball, it does look like that Chrissy does have a future, and being able to leverage state level funds along with private level funds to access those big federal dollars is extremely important for us capitalizing here in Kentucky. And I do want to say this, it really is an exciting time. Thank you to you all for your foresight. And even if you're not here, I'm not pointing to your age, or you're getting ready to leave. But the investment and the decisions that you all made here over the last few years are going to ripple into the next generation's economic prosperity that we're going to see in this state. And it really is because of the investment that this body makes, and the investment of dollars that are made today for our future generations. So thank you.
With that, I'll jump in and I'll say, we have seen this program work, the ROI, and really I will mention we have spreadsheet after spreadsheet about these projects, how they were spent. So with the lack of time today, we're not getting into all of that, but I'm happy to follow up at any time with specifics about the projects and the opportunities they created. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. We're going to stick with a real request, reauthorizing the programs that were committed in 2024. I'll stop there, and if you have any real questions, we'd be happy to take those now.
Representative Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just real quick, the button that you pushed for me was the spurs. It would be good to see the creation of those across the state that you were able to use the dollars for, because if a spur is built, it's going into industry, which is going to be a return. So any projects like that, rather than just replacing a bad rail piece. The other thing is, the tracks accessible to all rail. I mean, when a track's built, all of our rail system. I know you're a private company. We got CSX. We got Southern. We got all these different rails. How is it? Is it a lease agreements? Do you have interlocal agreements?
Yeah, yes, it's a number of agreements, and we're all connected. So you think of a short line, a class 2 or class 3, is that first mile, last mile, and then we take those goods and services and exchange them with one of our class 1's partners, a CSX or an NS, to take that for the long haul freight movement.
And the reason I ask is because Corbin was a large footprint for CSX. They shut down, and that was kind of my mind frame, was looking at that as using it for a transport. And the hardest part has been getting through CSX. It's been dealing with them on showing we have a need. We went out and we had several companies say they would use it. But our hard part is getting them on the same page on building a transport system there. And that was the reason I was asking. So the rail itself, they'll have designation on rail that they have going south or whichever way, and but you have usage to that rail if you do an interlocal agreement on that usage. If you decided to come into the area and pick up the transportation in that area, would that be an option, or is it just still in?
And that would probably take a lease of that track, and that would be up to the class 1 to facilitate.
I was just trying to find options, but
I understand exactly, and I understand exactly where you're going with that, Representative.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And if you come up with any ideas, I'd appreciate it.
No, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Senator Higdon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tyler, thank you. And R.J. Corman is a good, corporate citizen. I know you've serviced Nelson County and a lot of presence there. I guess my question again, Is this general fund or road fund?
Yes, sir. This is general fund dollars.
We love to spend in transportation. We love to spend general fund dollars.
That's why we're here to give you that opportunity.
We-
I would say, generally speaking, we're very supportive of another House Bill 1 type bill, which would be allocations from the general fund.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Good for rail? Okay, I think it's time to move on to aviation.
Before you do.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to turn the meeting over to Senator Douglas. I have a funeral that I have to make in Somerset.
Okay. I won't hold it against you, but thank you.
Please forgive me.
Okay, so again, with the House Bill 1 recap from the general fund, there was about $35 million that was allocated in the first year of the biennium for economic development with commercial airports. And we saw $11.6 million for general aviation support, which ended up being about $200,000 for each general aviation airport. And as we've done with the other modes, I have with me our co-chair, Emily, for aviation, and we are missing one today. So I'll let you start.
Good morning. My name is Emily Herron. I am the airport manager at the Henderson City County Airport. And on behalf of my colleague, Megan Tobin, with the Louisville Regional Airport Authority, obviously she regrets that she was not able to join us this morning, but obviously you all understand why. She's busy back in Louisville tending to the matter at hand. But yeah, so I just wanted to kind of go over a little bit of some of the successes we saw through House Bill 1, as Jennifer noted, $200,000 for each general aviation airport. And we've had that the last 2 budget sessions, so we've seen a lot of successes in that. There are 53 general aviation airports in the state of Kentucky. I will not regale you with every single thing that they all spent that $200,000 on, but I did want to just go over a few of those projects so that you can see how that money was very well spent. A lot of the funds were used for local matches. Some of the airports receive, a large amount of local funds from their cities or counties. Some of the general aviation airports receive no funding from their cities or counties in our state. So it's varied pretty widely across different airports throughout the state on their local funding. But so anytime we want to leverage our federal dollars through the AIP program or any of those other programs that we can receive federal dollars for projects, there's always a state and a local match involved with that. So some of the projects that may have kind of been held up because there was not any local funding for the match were able to get done with this $200,000. So we saw some new corporate hangars built, completion of a community hangar, completion of T hangars. So those are hangars that have individual bays for tenants to host their airplanes, which then generate revenue back to the airport through rent. Partial perimeter fencing that helps with wildlife mitigation, maintenance equipment such as zero-turn mowers, snow removal attachments, industrial floor cleaners, property acquisition, safety upgrades on fuel tanks, a parking lot that is actually getting ready to be paved at my airport in Henderson, which is very exciting, and landscaping updates, taxiway markings, and access road paving as well. So those are just a few of the projects that have been successfully utilized through this money that we received in House Bill 1.
So looking ahead to 2026, we have strong partners with the Kentucky Aviation Association, so we will largely follow their lead. I know they have a funding priority agenda and maintain, of course, if not more, the $200,000 for general aviation airports. Our commercials, all 5 of them, actually have funding developed funding proposals too, and we would be happy to sit down and go into any detail as well. One thing that KBT is very much supportive of this session. We've seen this over the interim, the creation of the Aviation Task Force. I'll skip the long mouthful. And really one of the highlights from that has been an advocacy issue for KBT for years, has been supporting the advanced air mobility potential for our state. It was mentioned earlier that geographically, we're located. We have, I know I don't need to tell you, but with CVG and UPS and all of these cargo giants right here in the Commonwealth, this is what we're hearing from them about what their next phase of operations and logistics look like. We're seeing advanced air mobility revolutionize medical care. And we're also seeing advanced air mobility play key roles in emergency preparedness. A lot of our general aviation airports are experiencing becoming emergency hubs. We saw this in Mayfield, where donations came into the airport. So we're really working with general aviations they have a really significant importance in the community and to the state. We also think that advanced air mobility could be a potential revenue generator for those smaller airports. Much of the advanced air mobility is with electric airplanes of some sort. I won't act like I'm proficient in it. But by doing so, it requires shorter runways. They're easier to land in different places. So places that have not been activated before, we do see could be activated through these efforts. So what we're asking for is an allocation from the general fund, really just to get, there's about 15 states in the country who are participating in different kind of pilot projects and studies and plans. So we would like to see Kentucky come to the table. There's a couple maps I could show you where there's where the hole in the donut. So we want to get, there's manufacturing jobs to recruit with this also. So we would like to see a first step of a plan to be developed. We think that can be done for about $350,000 to $500,000. That would get us to what I would generally say would be a strategic mobility plan. And that would factor in our location, where CVG is, how we work with UPS, how we activate our general aviation airports. So we think the time is now. It's exciting. So we're really advocating for that study. Is there anything you wanted to add about 2026, Emily?
Yeah, so I'll go over just a little bit about the request that I know the Kentucky Aviation Association has presented before. And again, Megan is not here to speak on behalf of the commercial, so hopefully they'll be able to come back to the table and give you their specific requests in the future. So the priorities that we have for the general aviation airports, of course, we want to be able to preserve that $200,000 per airport fund, roughly $11 million. Obviously, as you saw in the successes that we see from last time, that was a very, very important fund that's utilized, helps a lot of our airports be able to maintain some of their basic operating expenses, along with contribute to infrastructure, whether that's, making hangars and runways better and maintain them, or if it's, building new infrastructure to increase their revenue streams. We also are hoping to be able to streamline the audit requirements under KRS 65A20 and 65A30. So that's under the SPGE requirements. It's a really heavy burden on a lot of our smaller airports. It is a huge topic amongst the aviation group. I think there was about 45-minute conversation about it at the Kentucky Aviation Association conference a couple of weeks ago. It's again, a huge burden, the audit requirements on some of our smaller GA airports that don't receive a ton of funding and are then required to pay $20,000 to $30,000 for an audit for a 4-year time frame. Obviously, we want to remain accountable and we want to see transparency in those funds. But, we know this affects more than just airports. And so we just want to see some, looking at that and some streamlining of that. And then create a long-term funding plan. As everybody who has sat at this table before has talked about the return on investment, we know that's important. The Kentucky Department of Aviation did a study, economic impact study for the year 2022. They are in the middle of another one right now for the year 2024. We like to be able to show the incredible economic impact our airports have. For the 2022 study, $23.7 billion is the economic impact that Kentucky airports have on the state of Kentucky. It's 9% roughly of our GDP. And so obviously our airports are important. They bring in a ton of business to their communities, along with all of the other things we've mentioned, emergency management and all of those important things for our citizens. But we want to be able to develop a good funding strategy, potentially a 5-year plan that's going to focus on infrastructure upgrades, safety projects, and of course, economic development. And then the last thing is the Kentucky Aero Act. So that was passed through this last session, and that is really to expand aviation workforce development programs, investing in education and training, just to prepare for the next generation of pilots and mechanics and aviation professionals. So the Aero Act was passed last session, but it's not been funded. So we would love to see that funded to help really invest in the workforce of the next aviation professionals.
But not from the road fund.
No.
We'd be happy to take any questions about airports.
Emily, thank you very much. I think we do have a question from Representative Smith.
I guess this being the last part of it, I'll be short, Mr. Chairman. I guess this is the one that's probably disappointed me the most on the funding side of it, because I missed the mark on this one. But I can see the need that you had and how the investment that you made. I guess the vision was to see an expansion in the east and the airports to be able to be utilized for commerce. And I thought that was kind of a understanding that we were looking at. You can't grow Cincinnati any bigger. I don't know where they're going to put anything else. Louisville's doing well with their commerce, with their businesses. The vision was going east and trying to figure out how in the Pikeville, McGoffin, the eastern part of the state, the Big Sandy, look at those to see how we can increase or find a way for DHL. We met with DHL. We actually met with the airport, the lady that was over the airport, giving us how they expanded their footprint and how it all came about. And and that Amazon was overloaded. I mean, all these things we were hearing of the need.
Mm-hmm.
So we were trying to figure out how to take that need and put it in eastern Kentucky. That was one of the ideas or one of the visions. And I haven't heard anything about that. So this part of that you're talking about, helping these ones that's already thriving to get funding, I'm not really on the same page as you on that. They have plenty of revenue, have plenty of funds. I like the idea of talking about the smaller airports across the state, how we can help those. I've seen where they were given $200,000. And I know Eastern Kentucky University is trying to expand their aviation program on the need on pilots, on the need of mechanics in the field. And I'm not trying to be negative towards you. I was just saying it missed something that I had in mind in talking to the Mountain Caucus about the excitement of trying to figure out ways of getting this funding into the east. But there's not been any movement there, so
I could jump in. Representative Smith, I would love the opportunity to follow up with you and show you a map that we've created using advanced air mobility, because it makes access, as a crow flies, very, very easy to Eastern Kentucky. It can land anywhere. You don't need the long runways. You don't have to build a new highway. So we really see advanced air mobility opening up.
How far along has that come since we've done this funding? I mean, is there a model on that? Is there a proposal or?
So in the request for the strategic plan is where we would go and evaluate the different airports. So the one in Hazard and Perry County in particular, it has new road access now. We think that that's a huge potential for a logistics hub right there, with the advancements that have been made. We have to make the business case at the end of the day. But our partners at CVG and Louisville, we're all in agreement that advanced air mobility is a way to access Eastern Kentucky, and they're at the table. UPS has invested in Beta. CVG is a leader in the nation in it. So
that was a conversation. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, but that was a conversation that we had to begin when we were trying to put this task force together. That was a conversation we had in Cincinnati at Cincinnati Airport. They were talking about a new type of airplane, or however you want to say, that was actually could land on the shorter runways and could be used for the transit. That is my ideas. I'm not criticizing anything that's been done up to today. There had to be a need there. You wouldn't have got the funding. I'm just saying. We were trying to figure out how to get the East involved with the need of jobs.
Yep.
So that's all that I'm trying to say. So again, if that's a conversation that we can have, that'd be great.
I'd welcome that. Yeah, we will follow up with you for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're very welcome. Chairman Blanton has a has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just a very quick question, follow-up from Representative Smith. I know you work with these local smaller airports.
Yes, sir.
And you have communication with them.
Yes.
How is that line of communication with Pike County, Big Sandy?
Do you happen to know?
I will say I don't know a ton about Pike County. They have I don't personally know the people in charge of Pike County. I do.
There's your answer.
Yeah, I do personally know the airport manager and some of the board members from Big Sandy. Gary sits on the airport zoning commission with me, so I see him once every 2 months on our meetings, and then he's very involved with the Kentucky Aviation Association and that type of thing. So Big Sandy, I would say, is definitely a little more involved. Pike County, I honestly just have not really met them. I know they've hosted a camp there, an aviation camp from the Kentucky Aviation Museum. But other than that, I don't personally have any, knowledge of them much. So.
We're hoping with, as you know, former Representative Jonathan Dixon is now heading up KAA, Kentucky Aviation Association. So we're really optimistic that some of that communication will get really well, and we can embrace Eastern Kentucky better than we have.
Good. And it concerns me, not from your all side of things, but.
No, I agree. Your concern is noted.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Chairman Blanton. One of the things I want to say is, like Senator Higdon, when I hear words create a long-term funding stream, and then I start hearing the word "we," I always get a little nervous because often we don't define who we are, but just know that we are aware of the wonderful things that you're doing, but we also have to be very, very
absolutely
conscious of how we are working with the public's money. So thank you very much,
Thank
Emily.
you.
So we don't have an ask for public transit. I do want to mention it just to explain that, as you know, there is a little over $10 million in the transportation budget that's allocated through KYTC for public transit needs. I think that there's a lot of confusion about what is public transit, what is medical transport. One of the issues that I wanted to mention to you is about paratransit, and I'm actually going to read this so I don't misspeak, but it's a demand-responsive transportation service for individuals with disabilities who are unable to use fixed-route public transit, such as buses. So these are people who otherwise could be served, say, by a TARC bus, but can't get to the bus stop or are limited in their mobility in some way. And that's actually an unfunded federal mandate for our public transit agencies. They cannot say no to those rides. So that's one area that we really see growing and will continue to grow, that really makes budgeting a public transit agency a challenge. So while I had you here, I just wanted to bring awareness to that. And with that, we will hit our last mode. We're finally going to talk about the road fund, Senator Higdon. So with that, I'll have my road committee chairs come up. So go ahead. I'll keep going here while they get
Before we
settled.
proceed,
sorry.
I'm a little bit different. They actually gave me this. I'm really surprised how they give me this thing. If you two gentlemen will, please introduce yourselves and for the record.
Yeah, my name is Chad LaRue. I'm the executive director for the Kentucky Association of Highway Contractors.
And
I'm Andy Barber. I'm with
push your.
There we go. I'm Andy Barber. I'm with HDR Engineering, co-chair with Chad on the road network.
Okay, just pardon me. I have a protocol that I use, and I will use it no matter what.
Perfectly.
Would you please raise your right hands? You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you very much.
I do.
Floor is yours.
I'll kick us off again with a House Bill 1 recap. Not general fund dollars. This was an allocation of $450 million that went to high growth counties. I will spare you the details, but those dollars have gone to good work, creating access and economic development in much needed areas. And as we heard from Bobby Joe earlier, LARP, CPPP, all of the acronyms, we're very grateful that you acknowledge the need at the city and the county level for additional road funding. So I consider myself an optimist, but I'm going to paint the reality of the picture of our road funding these days. Our gas tax dollars are equivalent to what they were in 2015. Since the mid 1970s, when CAFE standards were enacted, we've seen our vehicles become more fuel efficient. With the more fuel efficiency, less gas is used. Therefore, the user fee associated with the gas is decreasing, while we're seeing our dollar not get us as far, increasing in costs of maintenance as well as capital project building. So we're not our current efforts to generate money for the road fund is not meeting our needs. I think exacerbating that problem for Kentucky is that our EV fees are the lowest of any of our surrounding states. In 2024, you may remember the hybrid fee was eliminated. So if you have a car that isn't a plug-in, you do not have to pay, you're paying less gas tax and you do not have to pay an EV fee. Finally, many of you are familiar with the NEVI program, where our charging stations have been rolled out on highways. The General Assembly enacted a 3 cent per kilowatt hour on our charging stations, and in 2024, that fee was limited to just level 3 chargers. So they're only going to see that fee on your big highway chargers, not on the ones that you see in your everyday life around your communities. So again, I would point to that as a significant loss of revenue. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Chad to talk a little bit about some of the remedies we think for these situations.
Thank you, Jennifer. Just a few of the items that we've touched on, talked about them a little bit in 2024. Some of these are still viable options. And you know, as the old cliche goes, when you find yourself in a hole, sometimes the first thing you need to do is stop digging. And so a couple of the proposals on here are just that. Continuing with the short-term support from the general fund, certainly that's a plugging the hole, and also providing some new revenue to the existing road fund funding model. As Jennifer said, it had a significant impact in 24. We hope that will be on the table for consideration again in 2026 in whatever manner or mechanism that the General Assembly sees suitable. As far as addressing the ways to modernize the existing road fund, we think the EV fees need to be reevaluated and looked at. As Jennifer said, Kentucky's are certainly not on par with our surrounding states. We don't think it's on par with the equivalent of the current gas tax either. So we think that's an area that could be looked at. And we know that that area is going to continue to erode the revenues because of the EV and the hybrid impact on the average fuel efficiency and the impact of the gas tax, which of course is our biggest funding component of the entire road program. We ask that you all continue to look at reducing diversions. I'll give high praise to the General Assembly over the last decade plus. That's been a significant change. It's put money back to work on the road program, and we're certainly appreciative of that. As far as what's next, long-term strategy for transportation funding, we would like to look at what other opportunities are out there, whether that's a task force to evaluate how we could generate additional revenue. We know that user fees or taxes are never popular, but those are things to look at and to determine how best to fund the needs that are already identified. The final comment that I'll make is that we are proposing that the current motor fuel tax be modified and be indexed to the National Highway Construction Cost Index. Currently, it's indexed to the average wholesale price of gasoline. It's been that way for decades. Our argument is if the purpose of that funding is to pay for improvements on the roadway, it makes sense to index that to those costs. And we've got data, essentially a simulation looking 10 years back, comparing the gas tax and how it behaved versus the construction or the consumer price index versus the National Highway Construction Cost Index. We're happy to share that with you all if there's an interest in discussing those opportunities. But we see that as a way to at least preserve the buying power today. I like to always take the moment to remind people that the purpose of an index is to preserve your buying power. And so if that index goes into effect, and it goes up, it's because the cost to do that work is going up. And if it goes down, it's the same holds true. The final comment I will make from the highway contractor's perspective is we have been working with the Kentucky petroleum marketers for a couple of years to have a proposal. Several of you all we've met with and talked with, and we have an agreement with them that they're essentially supportive of the changing of the gas tax formula and the increasing of EV fees. In exchange, we support them. They're trying to reduce their bonding requirements on their marketers, as well as the shrinkage allowance. They want to increase that due to rising costs on their operational costs for that. So with that, that's all I have to say. Andy, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add.
No, just appreciate the support we got, particularly with the we see a lot of road fund going out to general fund, but having the general fund come back in. Appreciate those efforts with House Bill 1, and we'll continue to serve as an industry resource to help solve these challenges.
I think that we'll end it there, and we'd be happy to take some questions or comments.
Do I see any questions from? Well, I actually was going to ask Senator Higdon anyway. I saw him writing. Senator Higdon.
Let me say this. I guess I'm supportive of the wholesale petroleum, whatever the organization is, on the reduction of the bond. But I've not seen any real proof that the evaporation fee needs to be dealt with. You all might have an agreement with them. I don't. Okay.
Understood.
All right. Thank you.
Chairman Blanton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for your presentation. Andy, it's good to see you.
You too.
Just a comment. So we're talking about road funds. 100% agree with the things you're saying about the road funds. And we often think about new projects. And we're good at building roads in Kentucky. We got some of the best road contractors in the world. Okay, we literally can move mountains. Our road
Yes,
contractors can. Okay, but one of the things that also that I'm came across a lot lately, that in modernizing our road funding formula is also going to help. That we're seeing it's not all glitz and glamour like a ribbon cutting on a new roadway, but it's our rural secondary roads, seeing that they're getting the proper. We're good at building roads. We are not seemingly good at funding, going back and maintaining roads after we've built them. And so we've got to keep that up as well. But again, that takes money to do so. So look forward to what the conversations are going to be. I know I'm going to Vermont in December to NCSL to meet with other members around the country to discuss this very issue and how we go about modernizing our road fund formula and our road systems in general. So I just want to make a comment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Blanton. Any other questions? Well, Ms. Kirshner, I really want to thank you thank you and all the other people you brought before us this morning. It was a wealth of information. It'll take a little bit of time to digest.
Yes, sir.
Some of this.
Yes, sir.
As I always say, we'll be taking a look at this in the context of what's the best way to go about spending some of the money that our taxpayers give us. Before we adjourn, I just want to remind everyone to keep what happened in Louisville, the deaths and the injuries, in your prayers and in your thoughts today, and also keep the families, those families who are being impacted. With that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion. Second. All those in favor? Aye. This meeting's adjourned.
There we go.